In this video, I thought it would be important to discuss the 1 Trillion Tree Initiative from the World Economic Forum. The 1 Trillion Tree Initiative covers climate change, planting 1 trillion trees, and forest fires. However, the assertion to the cause of the forest fires can be misleading. So I will start by showing parts of the Economic Forum's video on forest fires. At the end of it, you will see an association between forest fires and their 1 trillion tree challenge.
And make no mistake, climate change is driving this dramatic increase in wildfires and future wildfire risk that found a doubling of the extent of wildfire since the mid-1980s, directly tied to climate change.
The reality is we continue to see ever-increasing wildfires year after year. We're not only seeing more fires, we're seeing a larger spread of the geographical area of our state on fire, as well as our West Coast states. And we're also seeing a longer period. Our fire season used to be about 2 months of the year, just 15 years ago, and it is now 9 months of the year.
Some of their statements are accurate. There is an increase in forest fires across the world. The droughts are getting more intense and drying out plant life, creating a combustible situation. However, their sole cause is climate change. This is false. One aspect of the increase in forest fires is weather modification. Another would be military using fire to further the goals of the true rulers of this world. Now I'm going to play some clips from a 2020 Davos Forum talking about the 1 Trillion Tree Initiative. There is a representative from Colombia, the chairman from Salesforce.com, Mark Benioff, representative from Chad, Sadhguru of the Isha Foundation, and Dr. Jane Goodall of Roots and Shoots.
Well, we are certainly at a time of a planetary emergency. We realize that our planet is getting warmer, and we need to find ways and solutions that we are going to all become, number one, carbon net zero, and reduce emissions, and number two, we have to sequester or eliminate the carbon that has been emitted into the atmosphere. And we need to get a big eye on our forests so that we can use them to sequester this carbon. Then I want to give thanks to Al Gore, who's not here, but is a critical part of this, because at our World Economic Forum trustee meeting in August in Geneva, he was there talking about the incredible research done at ETH University right here in Zurich by Tom Crowther. Tom did the incredible work for the Trillion Tree Vision. His team is doing extraordinary things and took artificial intelligence and low-hanging satellites and other fourth industrial revolution technologies and is showing us where these trillion trees are going and also the amount of carbon that they can sequester. So I would like to thank President Trump, who's also committed to participate in the 1 Trillion Tree campaign, and I expect the United States to commit to between 50 and 100 billion trees.
So this speaker has already mentioned having carbon at net zero. Remember, we are carbon-based life forms. Then he gets into carbon sequestration, which is basically terraforming. Since I am from Texas, I know that there are one of these carbon capture facilities in West Texas. Taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere will only harm plant life, not help it. When there is no plants, there is no oxygen. No oxygen, no people. Then he says we need to get a big eye on our forests. Is that the all-seeing eye he is hinting at? This individual during his segment thanks Al Gore and Trump. He was happy with AI being used to help low-hanging satellites spot areas that need trees. He made me laugh with the low-hanging satellites term. For a certain segment of the truth community that does not trust NASA, we understand what he is getting at here. Terraform facilities aren't the only form of sequestration for this guy. These new Build Back Better forests will help also. the new GMO trees will harness more carbon dioxide. So does this mean that more carbon dioxide is being taken away from natural plants? And if these new GMO trees are taking more carbon dioxide, then what are they expelling? Also, remember, one of the plans of the United Nations is to move people out of the rural areas and into the big city control grid. One of the ways I think they can do this is with supply. Simply tell people there aren't enough resources and they will only ship to the big cities. So if you're in a small town and you love eating Cheetos, you will have to leave to the big city to get them. Another way to flush people out of certain areas is with forest fires. Militaries have done this throughout history. Now for Sadhguru.
One of the major challenges right now in India for us is, it is estimated in the next 10 years, 220 million people will migrate to cities. No city in the country is geared to handle that kind of population. In the rest of the world, it is estimated 1.6 billion people will migrate. And out of this, 40 million square kilometers are used for raising animals or their food. If we push right now super athletes on the planet, your Tom Brady, Lionel Messi, Virat Kohli, all people who have 100 million following, they are all turned vegetarian. This is a good time. If we push back meat consumption by 50%, you will have 20 million square kilometers of agricultural land.
Now Sadhguru basically said we need to replace livestock farms with trees. You remember Sadhguru, he said we didn't need more souls on the planet, we need less.
I think there was a sense of relief, actually, in your frankness. You brought up some issues that others are reluctant to bring up.
Always. All the religious groups are against me because I'm talking about population. They want more souls, I want less on the planet.
Dr. Jane Goodall mentions how she is sad that chimpanzees are losing the forests they live in, citing that people are cutting down trees to grow food. So I guess we could infer that she wants less people around wanting to grow food to save the forests.
If we don't work with the people who are cutting down the trees even on the steep slopes because they're desperate to grow food for their families, then we'll never be able to even try and save the chimpanzees.
So you're probably asking yourself why I am talking about trees. That's boring. I mean, geez, there's war, economic collapse, grid down, and bioweapons to talk about. Well, a couple reasons. One is to show additional elements of the forest fire agenda. The other is to show how both sides actually work together. Remember earlier when Mark Benioff thanked Trump? Well, it's because on October 13, 2020, Donald Trump signed the executive order called Establishing the 1 Trillion Trees Interagency Council, Executive Order 13955. The World Economic Forum is directly mentioned in an executive order that he signed. Do you really think he didn't know what he was signing? He's been to the WEF meetings and shook hands with Klaus Schwab. No more excuses. Biden is doing his part also. Just recently, our 46th president had bears released into the national forest in Washington state. The idea is to keep people away from the forests, although they will say it's for the environment. Biden is doing his part in getting people out of the national parks. He even turned the Grand Canyon into a national park. For this video, though, I want to stay focused on the 1 Trillion Trees program. I will read a little bit from the executive order. For starters, it references another executive order called Promoting Active Management of America's Forests, Rangelands, and Other Federal Lands to improve conditions and reduce wildfire risk. So already there is a mention of wildfire. How do you think the executive order has done so far in stopping forest fires in America? Good question. This past summer of 2023 has had plenty of forest fires like in Canada and other parts of the world. Overall, this executive order grants the government more powers over federal lands, as well as other wilderness areas. Again, the executive order directly references the World Economic Forum. Let me read. On January 21, 2020, I announced that to further protect the environment, the United States would be joining the World Economic Forum's 1 Trillion Trees initiative, an ambitious global effort to grow and conserve 1 trillion trees worldwide by 2030. There's that year 2030 again. You know, United Nations Agenda 2030. Anyway, back to the executive order. Following through on my commitment and given the expansive footprint of our federal forests and woodlands, this order initiates the formation of the United States 1 Trillion Trees Interagency Council to further the federal government's contribution to the global effort. Still think Trump isn't a part of the global agenda? So is he a genius president playing 8D chess, or was he fooled? I'm going to give him credit and say that he's a very smart person. He wasn't fooled, the people are. No one gets to the top unless they make the deal. They have all sold their soul to Satan. Why do people keep falling for the same tricks over and over again? Now stick with me, there's more to the story. I know people will stop listening once someone's favorite American Idol is challenged. So here is what I think is happening, in part. These Luciferians are burning down the forest to build back better. My theory is that once the trees are destroyed, they can then be replaced with genetically modified trees. Nothing in this world can be natural. God's creation must be destroyed and replaced by something in the image of the beast. Even Billy Goat said that the injections were gene therapies, so the trees, people, food, livestock, animals, corn, agricultural goods, and more must be genetically modified. In the name of saving the planet, everything must be GMO. Billy Goat is funding the company Kadama with $6.6 million to remove excess trees from these dense forests in California, according to the infamous fact checkers. And of course, there is a 6-6 in the story. The original story cited that Billy Goat was funding the cutting of 70 million acres of trees. The official story states that they won't be cut, but removed from a combination of tree culls, controlled burns, and other strategies. The fact checkers make me laugh. So what are the other strategies? Cutting them down? Whichever story you go by, they are still destroying trees. So what are those removed trees going to be replaced with? Well, if I know Billy Goat, he loves his GMO products. One of the aspects of the GMO tree is that they can be made to be fire resistant. While this may sound great to a firefighter, let's think about the true purpose. This means that someone trying to live off grid and use firewood for cooking or heating would have difficulty. No more campfires, no more fireplaces, one more stab at independence. Everything must be a part of the grid. Thanks for watching, and remember, Lahaina.